TikTok. Hold on, people. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Art of Relationship show. I'm going to be with you in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome back to the Art of Relationship show. You can catch the show live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Detroit time, New York City time. And I try to pick a topic for the evening, but your questions are always welcome every time, okay? I do a live Q&A. Even though I talk about a topic, let me know, okay? Let me know your questions regarding marriage, dating, yes, even sex, people, relationship, relationships, marriage. You can tell it's already been a long day. My voice is going through normal puberty at this time, okay? Melody, I appreciate you tuning in. And disclosure I have to do for every episode um, is that this does not replace the professional counseling that I do in my office, okay? Because of confidentiality, following HIPAA guidelines, and there's no way to do that here. But I will do the best I can to answer your questions out there, and I will do the best I can to help you out and give you, research, evidence based. I've been a full professional counselor, fully licensed for almost 22 years now. It'll be 22 years in August in a couple months. And I specialize, of course, in relationships, sex counseling, and I have a lot of grief and a lot of trauma experience as well. But I do focus on and always have relationships, marriage, sex challenges, and trying to help people have the best relationship they can have. Does that mean perfect? No. No one's perfect. One thing about me, and I talk about this, my clients know this, people that know me, I taught college classes for a long time. Excuse me. That I'm very direct and I care about people. That's why I do this. That's why I work with couples, I work with people professionally because I actually care. So I'm very direct. I love joking around, sense of humor when I can. So I want to help people get more connected, like I said. Or the other side of that is maybe looking at there's some relationships I try to help them get more connected, like I said. Sorry, I'm repeating, but also to the situation to where maybe they realize that they are not healthy together and that their relationship or their marriage is toxic. And again, that is their decision to make. It's no one else's decision to make but their own, okay? It's not mine. It's not another professional's to make. It is the individual or the couple dynamic. They make that decision. Plain and simple, okay? That's bias, that's judgmental to be able to, have that stance. Now, there is a way. Hey, if you want to continue this and you want to be miserable, have at it. Do whatever you want to do, okay? But tonight, going to be talking about toxic relationships, okay? And, what is a toxic relationship to one person might not be actually toxic to somebody else, okay? So a lot of people are going to look at different ways of toxic. Maybe there's been a shoving incident, okay? The wife pushes the husband or girlfriend pushes the boyfriend. Maybe the boyfriend pushes and it's an isolated situation. Does that mean that relationship or that marriage is toxic? No, it doesn't. Now, if that continues and that's, an everyday situation, if that has been a constant, then I would say it's toxic. So you have to look at every situation. You have to look at, every dynamic as unique and different. And I'm looking at the majority of the relationship, okay? I'm looking at, if someone comes in to me in a couple, right? Hey, Greg, we want to know if we're toxic. What are your thoughts type of situation? Okay. So I look at, an isolated incident doesn't make it toxic. Okay. Now, if it's a chronic situation, then we have to look at those situations. Love is for the mentally stable. You know what? Deadpool. I'm not going to disagree with that, but sometimes love can make the mentally stable unstable, right? That thin line between love and hate out there, and it's not easy. It's not an easy situation. That's why I love a challenge. That's why I like working with couples of all walks of life. Okay, so please share this live feed on your timeline, on your page, wherever you're watching or viewing it. I'd love to get as many questions out there, because the more questions I get, chances are I'll be able to help a lot more people, because it's rare that only one person might be going through a situation that's out there. Okay. And again, every situation's different, even though there are similar situations. Say one person got cheated on, both got cheated on, and 1,000 other people got cheated on, right? That's different for each couple, each individual, what their experience is like, maybe what caused the cheating, and what is needed to repair that aspect. Okay, so we look at toxic relationships, and I'd love to hear out there, what is toxic for you? What is in your situation, in your beliefs, what is toxic? Okay, we can look at definitely abuse. If there's verbal, physical, emotional abuse. Okay, and it's chronic. Okay, and this has been going on for a long time, right? Then I tell people, why are you in it? And, what are you getting out of that situation? Are you staying out of fear? Are you staying out of financial reasons? And a lot of people look at, when there's, chronic, like I said, physical, emotional, mental abuse, and it's not always the man that is creating that abusive situation. Not at all. There's a lot of women out there that are the ones that are more likely to hit, to slap, to punch. I don't condone this at all. I look at what I can do to heal it so that doesn't happen again. Okay. So going back to, say that's going on and it's a regular thing. And I'll ask, why are you still in it? Not that you shouldn't be. Again, that's your decision. And I get people, well, we've been together for X amount of years. We're stuck together. We have kids together. And then I ask people left and right, when it comes to kids and toxic relationships, would you want your son, your daughter, your kids to be in a relationship or marriage like you're in now? And I get, oh, hell no, gee, hell no, Greg, there ain't no way. Well, I tell people, it's not what you tell them, it's what you show them. Okay? So it's looking at, you tell them, don't ever be in a relationship like this. Don't ever be in a marriage like this. This is unhealthy. This is toxic. We'll use the word of the day, but you still are in it. You still remain in that toxic relationship. And a lot of people, and I hope kids learn that they can get away from that they don't have to fall in that pattern. And it's what you show them, okay? And sometimes it's healthier for the kids. A lot of times, let's face it, most times, it's healthier for the kids not to be in a toxic relationship, okay? So we talked about one thing about toxic, right? Emotional, physical, psychological / mental abuse, right? We can talk about sexual abuse too, okay? And yeah, if you are mentioning your questions down below in the chat, okay? If I'm not going to mention your name, I want to protect your identity. You want to be anonymous, be anonymous. If you give me permission to use your name, I'll use your name, okay? Whatever, but I want to protect your privacy out there as well. And got a question. How can someone fall back in love or save their marriage if over a long period of time there is resentment, criticism, gaslighting, mocking, okay? Now, all those aspects, okay, I look at, okay, over a long period of time. Okay, what is a long period of time? For one person, it could be a month, a week, 2 weeks. For some people, a long period of time, it's years, right? It's a lot of years. So you already talked about, okay, there's resentment, criticism, gaslighting, mocking. We'll throw in belittling, degrading, those situations, okay? My situation is what's been done to try to stop that, okay? Are you speaking up, speaking out of the hurt and the pain? This is where I go with couples, and I deal with this situation on a daily basis. It's a great question that I go after, what is causing that? Okay. Is that person having issues, anger issues, past trauma issues, whatever it is? Maybe they, mental diagnosis, bipolar disorder, depression, anxiety, whatever. But I tell people, because you have a mental disorder, my heart goes out to you. You have past trauma. My heart goes out to you. But I'm going to be honest and be direct. That doesn't excuse you to, in your efforts to treat people like crap. No, because of your mental diagnosis, disorder, or past trauma, that doesn't give you the right to be mean, to degrade others, to be toxic in your relationship, okay? That's where I ask people to go after and try to get help in that situation. So we're going to look at, number one, what is the resentment? What does the resentment build up over? Is it cheating? Is it lying? Is it degrading? Is it, emotional abuse? Talking, whatever that resentment is, we need to uncover it, okay? Now, number one, what I go after is, for that resentment, has there been a connection on the pain that was caused to the person that is carrying that resentment? Or maybe both individuals are carrying resentment, okay? So what is done to go after each person's pain? That's going to be number one. Is there genuine remorse and guilt that has to be there? Okay. And it's not a situation where, they made me do this. Okay. We made, she made me do this. He made me do this. That is not showing genuine remorse and guilt for the pain you caused. So if that is not done, if that is not exhibited, if that is not shared, it's going to be very, very difficult to heal any resentment, if that's even possible. So that's going to be number one, okay? Now, and I want to help the person that is carrying the resentment to heal. Now, if that person is doing the criticizing, gaslighting, I hate that term, but everybody uses it, okay? Mocking, belittling, degrading, whatever, okay? Is that person willing to get to help, and are they able to look at themselves? And this is one thing I look at in my office, okay? I want to make a safe environment. I do, I want to, hey, are you able to look at, is it possible maybe you're doing this? Is it out of anger, but is it actually underneath all that? Is it out of hurt and pain and that? Is that where the criticism comes from? Or is it just that person is an asshole? Okay, so that's where we have to look at what is going on and what I can do to help to eliminate that. Now, is it possible? Absolutely. I work on this. I've been doing this for a long time with good results, okay? But that doesn't mean every person is going to be able to heal, grow, and to stop doing. First, number one, they have to realize what they're doing if it's toxic to a relationship. And number two, are they willing to look at themselves and do the work to change those so they stop the criticism, the mocking, the belittling? I tell people usually it's a power trip, right? One wants to belittle, degrade their other partner to keep them down so they feel smaller, that they hold power over that person. And we can look at all those situations. I know that's a quick answer, but I look at those things got to be in place. And if those things are not in place, or the person that is doing the gaslighting, the manipulating, which is common stereotypically in those that might have borderline personality disorder, that is a common thing that they might do. Now, are they willing to get help like DBT therapy? Are they able to do, look at themselves and be humble enough to look at that? And, or, if they don't, then it's going to be, then you have decisions to make to, what, if this doesn't change like now, not overnight, that's might be impossible. But if that don't change like now, then I have to look at why am I here? And this is unhealthy for me. It's unhealthy for both individuals in that relationship. And, it's hard. It's devastating when a relationship or a marriage ends. It's not easy, okay? And that's where I want people to look at. And I tell people all the time, I don't want people to have regrets. I don't want people to walk away. Damn, I wish I would have done this. I should have tried this. Damn, I wish I wouldn't have done, walked away, or I could have done this. So this is a situation where I look at to be able to help and heal. And sometimes that's not possible, okay? Hey, Caleb, what's going on? So throw out your questions. It's a great question. I look at, what is going on, what has been tried, over the years time frame of trying to reduce the criticism. And I want people, a huge place I go after is to be able to speak from the hurt and the pain. Hey, I feel disrespected. I don't feel loved. I feel like I'm ripped apart. I feel like I'm not good enough. And then that person, well, if you didn't, and they don't humble themselves, there's no remorse, there's no compassion, and it makes it very difficult to be able to feel safe in a relationship. And let's face it, if you don't feel safe emotionally, mentally, physically, sexually in a relationship, that's toxic, okay? And I'm not talking, let me reiterate, I'm not talking you feel that way for 1 day, 2 days. I'm talking quite a bit of time, okay? So going back through a toxic relationship is typically constant belittling, criticizing, demeaning, degrading, right? Which I just talked about in the question. That's one reason. And these are constant. These are, pretty consistent that these go on situations. That is a definition or an example of a toxic relationship, okay? Lack of trust and honesty. Now, somebody cheated. There's going to be a lack of trust, a lack of honesty, right? Does that mean that relationship is toxic? No, it does not. Now, if it continues and it never heals, then it will be considered as toxic. So you have to look at those indicators of what I'm reading. How long is it going on for? And is it willing to, they need to stop it. Let's plain and simple. What are they willing to build the trust back? What are they learning to do, or willing to do, I should say, to rebuild the honesty and build that trust back? Because somebody cheated, it's devastating. It's devastating. It just blows up everybody's world when somebody cheats, okay? And that's mostly what I work with on a daily basis. So I look at that situation to where, because they cheated, that doesn't mean you're in a toxic relationship, okay? It might be, but we have to look at the parameters and we have to look at the criteria. Is it a constant cheating that's been going on? The lying, the degrading, the berating, that type of situation along with the cheating. So we have to look at, is it chronic situation, or is it acute, right? Acute is a short-term thing. Chronic, of course, is a long term, okay? So, no, I appreciate that question before. What are other aspects about a toxic relationship, okay? There's a lot of situations, and everybody throws out, well, I should say every woman throws out the word narcissist. Or StreamYard or the internet. So hopefully they got it fixed. So I appreciate that, okay? So, going back to, where a lot of people might look at where, the narcissistic aspect, right? And a lot of women think all men are narcissistic. We're not at all. And there's some women that are narcissistic in nature as well, okay? But because somebody doesn't get their way doesn't mean your partner's narcissistic, okay? But anyways, some people are so controlling, which is a toxic trait, that they're so controlling that they will want to isolate you from friends, from family, those situations, okay? So they become very jealous. They become very possessive of you. And this goes for men, women. Again, these criteria that I'm, stating, this has no gender barrier. It's any gender can produce or be presented with these situations, okay? So a toxic situation, another one is they try to isolate you. They try to not have you go out with friends or whatever. Now there's a difference between, oh, my husband, my wife is so controlling, they won't let me go out with friends, and find out you go out with friends 6 nights a week and they only want a couple hours with you 1 day a week. And you're saying that person is controlling. That's not toxic. You get me? So there's a lot of people out there they will flip the script and they will lie and they will be deceptive in trying to get people falling for them, and falling for them meaning playing the victim role. And then that's where I like asking people, well, really, when people go through, they got cheated on, went through a divorce, and even personal life, oh, what happened? What went on? What caused you to get cheated on? They're just this, they're that. Then you find out they were never around, never home, never paid any attention to their partner, didn't show them they loved them, like they were non existent. That's why that person cheated on them. That doesn't excuse it, not at all. But that's where a lot of people where toxic behavior will come in, that they will play the victim role. And as the question by the viewer earlier about gaslighting, right? They'll try to gaslight and they'll try to play the victim role with whoever will listen, okay? And when you ask more questions, they get defensive. They'll say, oh my God, I can't believe you're blaming me. Blame the victim, right? And it's not about blaming the victim. It's about, are you able to look at maybe what was your role in stuff? What was your, maybe what could you have done different or to prevent the divorce, prevent maybe someone from cheating? Again, that doesn't excuse it. And there are habitual cheaters, dogs out there, both any gender, but most people are not that. So going back onto, you look at, what was going on, back to, jealousy, possessive,ness. They try to isolate that person. And this is a regular, it's not like, oh, I want to meet up with a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine, or family, my brother, sister, whatever, once a month, and they're complaining, oh my God, you don't love me. You choose them over. And you're like, what? Now, that's what I mean about being realistic about possessiveness, about controlling, about trying to isolate people from, friends, family, that situation. That is toxic. And again, there's a difference between the reality of you don't want them to ever see a friend, family, whatever. That's possessive, that's controlling, and that's isolating. And that is not healthy, plain and simple. And that is a toxic situation. So you have to be able to look at, are you the one that wants to remain in that situation if that changes or if it doesn't change? Okay. So those are where you're looking at, and what's going on. So a lot of people will look at, perception, right? And especially with toxic relationships, it's only their perception that matters. No, it isn't. It's toxic. That's where you have to look at, a healthy relationship. It's an ebb and flow. It's a give and take. You're able to both understand and care about how you affect each other. It's a give and take, right? It's mutuality. In a toxic relationship, it doesn't happen. Maybe it is constant. I use this and I talk with my hands all the time, people, so forgive me. I tell people, you have one person that is, look at me, I'm going through this, Hey, Rev Rob, what's going on, man? So, looking at, I'm hurting, I'm going through there. Hey, good, peace, man. I appreciate you tuning in. Oh, yeah, MSU, woo-hoo. Sorry for the U of M fans, but yeah, I'm a State fan. Uh-oh, now I'm going to lose followers. So, anyways, going back to, I got a buddy of mine that played for U of M a few years back, defensive end for U of M football too. He's a big dude. I'm a little dude, so I got to watch what I say. But anyways, going back to, you have one person, look at me, I'm feeling this way, I'm hurt, I'm pissed, I'm doing this. And you have the other one doing the same thing. I'm hurt, I'm pissed, whatever. But they're not looking at each other. And this is one thing I try to do and try to get couples. Hey, can you, for a minute, put yourselves in each other's shoes, okay? Are you able to look at, hey, can you understand why they're feeling this way? I want the same for you. Can you understand why they're feeling this way? But in a toxic situation, it never gets to that point. It's all about just what I feel, what I'm feeling, or it's not my fault you're feeling that way, and no one takes responsibility. No one takes accountability, and that's not healthy, okay? It's toxic, okay? If that continues. Now you have to look at again, right? Does this happen once in a great while? Yes, every relationship, every marriage, that happens. Or is this a regular day-to-day or everyday situation? That's toxic, okay? So there is also, we talk about, control tactics, manipulative behavior. And I mentioned some of those before when there's constant manipulation. Well, if you really love me, you'd have sex with me. Well, if, it's a woman's job or it's a man's job to do this, there's that manipulation, that guilt trip to try to guilt trip their partner into doing something that they don't want to do. And I'm not talking take the garbage out, that stuff, right? I'm talking that is very belittling, demeaning, degrading. I tell people, why would you want to have sex with someone that doesn't want to have sex with you? And this could be girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, partner. And it hurts, right? It hurts not to feel desired or whatever. But they got a right to say, no, I don't. But do you ever look at what is causing them maybe not wanting to be intimate with you, okay? As I adjust in my chair. But in an unhealthy situation, they don't care what they're doing to their partner. They don't care that they're belittling, degrading. They don't care that they're manipulating their partner, but they still want to have that. You still got to give me sex. You still got to give. It's all about them. That is another toxic trait. Okay. So there is another situation, we already talked about, obviously, physical violence, physical threats. Some people, I've never been, violent with them, with my partner, but then they threaten them. I'll shoot you. I'll kill you. I've never touched you. Do you get me? So threats of violence are also forms of toxicity in a relationship. So those are situations that they're not good. They're unhealthy for you as an individual. Maybe together, you're toxic together. You can have two good people, but together, they can be toxic for one another. Personality clashes are toxic, right? Maybe, there's some people that don't fight. I'll go to the other extreme of toxic relationship, okay? Where they don't fight, they don't argue, they don't talk. I'm talking nothing. There's no good morning. There's no I hate you. They don't communicate. Once in a while they might, I'll pick up the kids. You pick up the kids. That's it. And a lot of times they might just go, if the kids are old enough, text your mom, text your dad. And they put the kids in the middle as a communication tools, if you will. Okay? And they use them as pawns to mediate what's going on. That's toxic. So a lot of people might not argue. They don't fight, but they don't communicate at all. There's no intimacy. I'm talking not just sex, but there's no physical intimacy. There's no touching. There's no compassion. There's no empathy. But they stay together and they've been like this for a long time, okay? Like years. And they're the ones that will, well, we took a vow together and I am not going to break up our intact family, okay? And you have a lot of people that will, again, guilt trip the situation that, you know what, I am not going to get a divorce. We are going to have an intact family. And I challenge these individuals, do what you want, but intact. My understanding, I could be wrong, but my understanding or idea of intact doesn't equate to healthy. Being together, right? Staying in a relationship, staying married, that can be intact, an intact family, right? That doesn't mean it's healthy. An intact family can be very toxic, okay? Well, I don't want my kids to be from a broken home. Because you are together does not mean that's not a broken home, right? And there's going to be people out there, I know there's going to be religious zealots out there. That's fine. Bash me. I can handle it, right? That will believe the family stays together no matter what. No, that's toxic, right? If there's all those things I brought up, the criteria, right? The degrading, the belittling, definitely physical violence towards one another, physical threats of harm to one another, jealousy, isolating from friends, those type of situations, controlling, manipulative behaviors, that you feel trapped or you feel caged up all the time in a relationship. Or some people, they go to leave and they automatically take all the money out of the joint bank account. They take keys, they take cell phones, and believe it or not, at least in Michigan and most other states I know, if you do that, that is considered a hostage situation. That is considered kidnapping. You cannot stop somebody from leaving that wants to leave. Now, there is a different, if, say, your partner is drunk, stoned, whatever, and they're going to drive, can you stop them? You can do the best you can to stop them. But if not, then you call the cops, right? And I don't want to call the cops on, you get me? And I get that. And it's hard, but you cannot stop somebody from leaving. You can't take their keys away from them, their cell phone where they can't call anybody. You can't, lock the door, stay in front of them. That is considered legally that you're holding your partner hostage. That's not healthy and that's toxic as well. Okay. So you look at that situation to where, um, all these situations go from. So you look at, because a family is intact, they live together, that doesn't mean they're healthy. I want to know, is there love? Is there affection shown? Is there communicating, talking? Is there, evidence of care, concern for one another? And that doesn't mean the kids get their way all the time. Hell no, 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 no. Okay. So there's a big difference between a healthy relationship or marriage that is intact versus an intact family that lives together, but they're unhealthy or it's a toxic situation. Okay. So, okay. Another question. Is it possible that you were in love once, but fall into roles and forgotten about the foundation of why they started this family? Add sex and intimacy to that question. Absolutely. Let's face it. A lot of people I talk about, if people want to look at, hey, Peter, what's going on? I appreciate you tuning in. So I look at the situation to where you go back to, and I'll ask couples once in a while, what made you fall in love? What made you so connected? Oh, we paid attention to each other. I got complimented all the time. We were so affectionate. All those, we joked around, we played. We were friends and we had a lot same interests, and then we fell in love. Those situations, right? So, but a lot of times, let's face it, life gets in the way. And that's where I tell people we end up taking each other for granted. You have kids, right? Never, oh, it's all about the kids. And you forget about the relationship or the marriage. You forget about that relationship between partners, okay? So a lot of people take that for granted, and they will tell you, "Oh, you need to be okay with putting the kids first and not worrying about you two." Whoever tells you that, they're lying to you, okay? Because if you don't worry about yourselves or make a priority with your relationship, romantic relationship, that relationship or marriage is going to end. I can almost guarantee it. It's either going to end or you will be miserable in that relationship if you decide to stay. And if you are miserable in that relationship, that is toxic for you, or it's toxic for both of you if you both are miserable in that relationship. Okay. So we look at, when you talk about, falling into roles, or, you forgot the togetherness. And that's what I do, little gestures. And I get life is hard, work, bills. You decide to have kids, the hustle and the bustle. It doesn't mean you have to give your kids whatever they want. No, that's not healthy. And it's healthy if you can tell your kids no once in a while. You know what? No, it's going to be me and dad. It's going to be me and mom. It's just us two, because our relationship, our marriage is important. Okay. Step families, it's a lot more of a delicate balance, because typically those kids were there before you two. So when it comes to step families, it's a lot more delicate of a balance. And I'm going to be honest, it's a lot more difficult. That doesn't mean it's impossible. No, not at all. Okay, there's a lot of step families that work well together, and there's some that obviously they don't. Okay, so that's where I want, to understand about, going back to, even if a relationship become toxic, how did you used to love each other? What happened? What was going on? Life, stress, business. Um, One of you maybe lost a parent. Maybe your mom died young, father died young. Maybe you lost your sister who was your best friend, your brother who was your best friend. So there's a lot of stuff in life that happens. And like I said, I'm a realist. What do we do to grieve that? What do we do to support one another to try to get back and get more connected even before? Because a lot of times you get in a situation where you can't talk about anything and everything, and you learn this, so you silence it This is going to piss him off, hurt her feelings. We can't talk about it. I'm not going to have sex in 2 weeks if I bring this up, right? Him or her talk about that. So that's where I look at what can I do to help that couple start talking about anything and everything, no matter if it hurts your feelings. In a toxic relationship, they're going to use that as weapons against each other. The belittling, the criticizing. They're going to throw up stuff, from the past, or they may bash each other's family. Oh, your brother died. Oh, he was an asshole anyway. Stuff like that. And you start losing the compassion, the understanding, the nurturing, the emotional support for one another goes down the toilet. So that's where I tell people, you know what, I get that. I want you to be intentional, I should say, sorry. So you don't take each other for granted, okay? A lot of relationships, they don't start off as toxic. They become this way. And yes, there are relationships, they start off as toxic, thinking they're going to get better, and they never do, but they won't reach out for help, okay? But a lot of situations, a relationship might start off good, great, connected, it's healthy. And then it becomes toxic by these things over time because of resentment. Maybe because one person or both people are not feeling loved. They're not feeling appreciated. They're taken for granted. They're not a priority. They don't feel important. You don't feel desired. So that just eats at you, chips at you. And instead of maybe talking about, you start yelling and screaming at each other. Instead of actually about stuff that might not really matter. The small stuff, right? And it turns into big stuff where you're totally disconnected. And that anger might turn into violence where you're starting to throw stuff at each other, hit each other, push each other. I got all kind of stories to tell people, and I can't even make up a lot of this stuff, okay? So I don't want that. And like I said, there's a difference. I want to be clear. There's a difference between toxic relationship and isolated situations. That does not excuse the isolated situations from happening. Fire and Earth, much love to you. I appreciate the likes. Thanks so much. I'm very, very flattered. Again, share the episode on your page, on your timeline. I'd love to hear any other questions you have. You can, wherever you're watching or listening on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're listening, LinkedIn, throw your questions out there. I want to, look at that. And I look at, even if people are in a toxic relationship and they want the relationship or marriage to end, okay? They're sick of it. They're tired of it. I get it. I understand that. I still look at, and I want, if both people decide that, hey, you know what, we're done, whatever, Greg, can you help us deal with, with maybe divorce proceedings or dealing with parenting, co-parenting situation. And I do that. I want to help any way I can, okay? And I look at, and some people they're afraid because, oh, you know what, I'm a failure if the relationship or marriage didn't work. So they stay in the toxicity. I don't want to be a failure. Well, I look at the difference between being a failure versus it just didn't work, okay? And some people can do, no one does everything right. I don't do everything right, not at all. I'm very human. So I look at if, you do things that are loving, caring, whatever, and you're with somebody that is toxic, abusive, that situation, why would you be a failure if you decided to call that relationship or marriage, I'm done, I quit? But let's be real. There's a lot of situations out there that they're afraid that they're going to get killed. They're going to get beat. I'm honest, okay? They don't have financial means because maybe that controlling person controlled all the finances. They, controlled everything that they wouldn't allow. That's another way of being controlling, is finances in a certain way, right? Being controlling, not allowing that person to have any type of freedom, financial, whatever. And there's people in toxic relationships that they both work, but only one gets to do anything with that money. They're the ones that dictate. They can go out, buy themselves a motorcycle, a boat, or she can go out and buy herself a new car, but he's not allowed to do anything. And she controls all that. So they're afraid, if they say they lead, oh, I won't have any money. I can't go anywhere. I don't do this. So I want to address those fears, the insecurities. And like I tell people, I don't blow smoke up people's booties. I'm direct, but I'm also compassionate and caring, empathic. I want to help people. I want to look at the consequences. This might happen. Now, what can we do? What can I do to help you either avoid that, or if it does happen, to, maybe lawyers, maybe different domestic violence groups, the authorities, maybe cops can be there while you leave to escort you out so there's no violence, or try to refrain from violence. So there's stuff that might be able to be done. And I tell people, you got a right to be scared. You got a right. I get it. It's normal. There's nothing wrong. I shouldn't be afraid. I should have just gone out. I get it. I tell people, you got a right to be scared. You got a right to be, nervous. It's okay. It's part of being human. And there's no shame in that, okay? So when you're in a toxic relationship, number one, what have I done to try to fix it, try to heal it? My part, we can only control us. We can't control our partner, okay? That's a given. So what am I doing to do my best to try to fix, heal it, or seek help for the relationship, okay? Or if my partner doesn't want to get help, what can I do to possibly get help for myself, okay? And that's highly advised too, because there's situations where she doesn't want to seek therapy or couples therapy. He doesn't want to. And believe it or not, 50% of the calls I get, or emails or texts that I get, checking for my services, and I'm flattered. I'm very humbled when people reach out to me. 50% of those are men. So it's not just women reaching out for help. Everybody assumes it's always women calling. It's always women reaching out for help. No, it's not. With me, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm telling you, 50% of the people reaching out because they're in a toxic relationship, or they're unhealthy, they're unhappy, maybe they messed up. 50%, they're the man, okay? It's not just women, okay? So, another question that popped up, like I said, throw your questions down below, people. Anything I can do to help answer them. Are we a product of how we were raised? Oh, this is an age-old question. Are we a product of how we were raised, or should we, as adults, know better and not use that as an excuse? Okay, I think you already answered your question, okay? This is another great question. Now, are we a product of how we were raised? Yes, to a point, okay? There's some people that were raised, we'll say, in a healthy environment, healthy parent or parents, grandparents, whoever raised them, okay? That they're fair, no one's perfect, but we'll say it's healthy, it wasn't abusive, and they turn out to be assholes. I'll use that, okay? And there's some people that have been in, I can tell you, horrific situations when I used to work with kids. I've always done couples sex counseling, marriage count forever. And I also used to specialize in severe trauma, kids, teens. Mom would literally pimp out, sell her 10, 11-year-old daughters for sex. I could go on and on. I did that for a while too. I no longer work with kids, but horrific environments, okay? And they turn out to be great people. So, number one, you know, being in a healthy environment, not perfect, is it helps your chances becoming a healthier adult, that you're able to cope and, better handle adulthood, okay? So that's number one. Research has backed that up, but I always go by the outliers. I go by the exceptions, okay? Because how we're raised a certain way, there's people that have been traumatized, raped, sexually abused, as I mentioned. So they turn out to be, well, I was traumatized, therefore, that's why I punched you. That's why I act this way. That doesn't excuse anyone, like I said at the beginning, because of say, a mental illness diagnosis, trauma, that still does not give you the right to abuse or treat somebody horrifically, poorly, bad, in an unhealthy manner, disrespectful manner. Doesn't matter, okay? So I'm going to make that very clear and direct. If that doesn't stop, you need to get help to make sure that does stop, or that person will leave you, or maybe should leave you, because that's a toxic, unhealthy environment for them, okay? So going back to, I think there's a lot, not only, how we're raised, and the big thing has always been out there, attachment theory, right? Attachment theory's been around forever, a long time, okay? But there's a lot of errors and a lot of myths with attachment theory because of what I'm talking about, okay? Because there might be recommendations, there are always exceptions to that. So that's why I said you could have a screwed up parent, but you also could have a healthy attachment to a friend's parent, an aunt, an uncle, a grandmother. You get me? So that can help you through that. So you look at, it's the, nature nurture debate, right? But we also have to look at, the nature aspect. There's some situations, maybe how we're raised, mixed with genetics, mixed with our brain, our body chemistry, okay? So a certain situation, say you have in a healthy environment, again, nothing's perfect. We'll say healthy environment, family, and the child ends up having juvenile diabetes. Okay. And the juvenile diabetes can create and limit, it might create a depression in that child. It might create, oh my, I have to have a, insulin pump. I have to give myself injections, and I'm afraid I'm going to be embarrassed. Kids are going to make fun of me. They're going to do all this stuff. So that's what I mean about, you can have that nature nurture battle, and looking at, sometimes you could be in a healthy environment and maybe a genetic or biology aspect can trigger in and create issues, manifest depression, manifest self-hatred, manifest a big chip on our shoulder because of that, right? And I get it, right? A kid, is raised maybe in a wheelchair from birth, blind, deaf, certain disabilities, right? So you could be raised in a healthy, loving environment, and how we internalize the biology, the genetic aspects of our life and what's happening, the physiological components, okay? So that's where I look at, we could be a component of how we're raised, yes, but that doesn't mean it's an end all or be all. And it also doesn't mean we get to treat people like crap because of it. Oh, I've had this happen to me, or I was raised this way. That means I get to take it out on everybody else. Let's face it, we know it happens, but that doesn't justify or condone someone's behaviors, right? If I was with somebody that, say, she was abused physically, emotionally, maybe sexually, and I'm with her and I'm going to, oh, it's okay. You were this way. So you get to treat me like crap. You get to cheat on me whenever you want because you went through this in the past. I need to always say yes to you. I need to forgive you all the time for hitting me, beat me, trying to stab me. No, not at all. But a lot of people will play that victim role to allow people to continue to be abused, neglected, controlled, isolated, constantly criticized, ripped apart, degraded. You get me? That doesn't excuse it. And my heart bleeds for people. That's why I do this. But I'm huge at holding people accountable for their actions, okay? For, like I said, I have a lot of empathy. I have a lot of compassion for people, but I'm also don't allow people to victimize themselves. I don't allow people to use that to get in a situation where they will abuse other people or treat people or their kids like crap because of it. We can understand it. Like one thing I brought up a long time ago earlier in the show was borderline, right? We talked about, I gave a definition or an example what someone that has borderline personality disorder, they can be great one minute, next minute they're degrading, belittling, just demeaning you, ripping you apart as bad as you can imagine, okay? Threaten to hurt you, threaten all kind of crap, okay? And a lot of people used to believe that a lot of people used to believe that they were trauma induced, okay? And it's not. What they found with borderline, I have a couple minutes. I'm going to get kicked off of TikTok. Guess they give me an hour. That's it. But with borderline, what they have found, recent research and evidence have been backed that it has been proven that borderline personality disorder has a highly, highly genetic correlation, which means borderline personality is typically, mostly genetic based, biologically based, not trauma. And this has come out probably about, it's been 2 years ago now. I want to say 2 years to be safe. And the research has been back this up, whatever. And I appreciate the questions and everything else. And again, if you missed this episode or just caught the end of it, you can catch every episode I've done. The best place I tell people, the easiest, is on YouTube at LoveGuruGreg. Please follow me all over social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, at LoveGuruGreg. And my website, theartofrelationships.org. You can check it out up above. And also check out, I have self-help courses going on now on sale, and they're dirt cheap. They're only $37, and they have a lot of content, a lot of videos, a lot of worksheets to help you heal from an affair is one, 28 days to revive your relationship or marriage, and the third one is the actual premarital early relationship course if you're looking at, getting married, the expectations, what you're looking for. And also, not only that, if, maybe not engaged yet, you moving in together. So check them out, theartofrelationships.org. And it's in my profile above as well. So peace and love to everybody out there. I appreciate you spending your time. I'm very flattered, very humble, okay? Peace and love, everybody. Take care.